Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone, situated in northwest Raccoon City,
where we're searching for the helicopter of our compatriots Bravo Team.
What is this place?
Wow, what a mansion!
Barry! Where's Barry?
He's...
No.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Really? Thanks.
You.
I'm Chris Redfield from the Alpha Team.
Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine. Barry Burton. Rebecca Chambers. Albert Wesker. Resident Evil.
Originally released in 1996, the original Resident Evil was a major success, selling over 4 million copies worldwide by December of 1997. The game was conceived by director Shinji Mikami, drawing heavily from classic horror films, and Capcom's own Sweet Home, released in 1989 for the Famicom. Now, despite its huge success, Mikami wasn't entirely satisfied with the final product, leading to the production of a remake starting in 2001. In this video, I'll be detailing the main differences between both games. Please note I will only be referring to the GameCube and PS1 versions respectively, and won't be covering versions like the one for the GS or Umbrella Chronicles scenarios. If you'd like to see videos on those, please let me know in the comment. This video will be divided into 4 sections: aesthetics, gameplay, locations, and story. Starting with the first thing you notice, the aesthetics. It's hard to find words to describe how creepy and at the same time beautiful the mansion has become.
I'll never forget my first night in this lovely house.
From the lighting of candles and lamps to the shadows on the poorly lit corridors. From the paintings on the walls to the statues and the furniture. Everything contributes to the gloomy atmosphere that makes you feel uncomfortable, but at the same time incapable of looking away.
We like it. It's so nice and gloomy.
Now, I'm not saying the original was ugly or wasn't scary, but due to a lot of things, especially hardware limitations, Resident Evil 1 from 1996 was a lot more simplistic. But video games aren't just about aesthetics and visual arts, so let's talk about a much more fundamental aspect of it, the gameplay. Since this game is a lot closer to its original compared to the newer remakes, there won't be many changes to gameplay. For the simpler additions, we have Quick Turn, introduced in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis and present in the franchise ever since. This change made playing the game much easier. Shortcuts to using the map. No need to enter the inventory and navigate to the map button to use it. Just press M, R2 or RB for PC, PlayStation and Xbox respectively. Reloading the gun with a button. Just like with the map, you don't have to go to the inventory, click on the ammo and combine it with the gun to reload it. Just press the reload button. The extra pockets for the lockpick and the lighter. This doesn't make any difference with Jill, because this is where she keeps the lockpick, which is just invisible in the OG and you cannot replace it with anything else. But for Chris, it's very helpful not having to waste very limited space with the lighter. Door handle breaking. The handle of the door before the safe room under the staircase breaks if you go back through it more than 3 times. After you come back from the guardhouse, you will find a note from either Barry or Wesker, depending on who you're playing as, saying that they have fixed the door. Puzzles and key items. Most puzzles were redesigned to some degree, and the use of certain keys and items has changed as well. For instance, the sword key is now necessary to open the door to the east wing of the mansion. And now you use the clasps to get the magnum on a tombstone instead of using the blue gem on a tiger statue. Next, this is where we have the most significant changes. Self-defense items, one of my favorite additions. They can be found scattered throughout the game and can be equipped in another special pocket in your inventory, not taking any extra space. Once equipped, they can help you get rid of an enemy if they grab you. These items are daggers, which can be reused sometimes, batteries for the taser with Jew, and grenades with Chris. Sadly though, they only ever use this mechanic again on RE2 and RE4 Remake, with some changes of course, especially for 4. When it comes to forgotten mechanics, this one never came back. The Crimson Hat. If zombies weren't trouble enough, here they can mutate into a faster, angrier, and more resistant form, capable of dealing much more damage with the traditional grab and bite, and also by clawing you. The only way to avoid a zombie becoming a Crimson Head is either by getting lucky enough to explode their heads, very rare with the pistol, or by burning them with kerosene and a lighter. There is a zombie in the OG with a rather skin tone and that moves a little bit faster that could have been an early version of this concept. I always wondered why Capcom never brought these or something similar in future games. In my headcanon, I like to believe that this is because a zombie can only become a Crimson Head if they have been a zombie for a really long period of time, like the ones in the mansion. Since we are coming back to Raccoon City in Resident Evil 9, maybe they could come back. What do you guys think? Like the Crimson Heads to return? Speaking of really dangerous zombies, there is one that stands out among the others. If you complete the game on either hard or normal difficulty, at least once with each character, you will unlock the One Dangerous Zombie mode. This zombie is none other than your former comrade, Forrest Speyer. He can run really fast like a Crimson Head and has no problems keeping up with you as you try to run away. His body is fully strapped with explosives, and if you attempt to shoot him or cause any physical harm, including with the use of defensive items, he will explode and take you with him. This mode cannot be deactivated in a save file once it has been unlocked, so every time you start a new game through the Once Again mode, you can expect to have Forrest chasing you. Two more modes that can be unlocked after completing the game are Invisible Enemy and Real Survivor. The first one is self-explanatory. All the enemies are invisible except for when you get attacked. They can also be seen in reflective surfaces, and you're also going to see blood patterns when you attack them. Real Survivor is almost identical to hard mode, with the exception of the fact that the item boxes are no longer linked. If you put an item inside one, the only way to retrieve it is via the same item box. For both modes, the auto-aim has been disabled. The locations, or maps if you will, are the aspects of the game that had the most changes in my opinion, not to be confused with the most significant changes. That honor still goes to the story. I'm talking about actual quantity. Starting with the mansion, the first addition we have is the West Wing Outer Stairway, which can be accessed through the tea room at the end of the corridor where you encounter the first zombie and your fallen comrade, Kenneth J. Sullivan. The staircase in this room leads to the mirror corridor. What's funny is for a long time I thought this was an entirely new room, but in reality it's just a very refurbished version of the poorly decorated corridor that leads to that room before the library, except that now it also has a door that leads to the second floor of the dining room and another one that leads into another new area, the Death Passage, which we'll talk about later. And I only found out about this after putting both maps side by side. Shout out to the website Evil Resource, by the way. Their interactive maps helped me a lot in the making of this video. Anyway, at the end of this corridor you will find a golden arrow, a key item that leads us to the next addition. the graveyard. Access it through the door after the first glance of stairs on the main hall. This is where you're going to use the arrowhead, extracted from the arrow you just found to unlock the crypt. There, you will find the sword key and later on a very formidable foe, the Crimson Hat Prototype 1, which is an even stronger version of the already terrifying Crimson Hats. The next place is also outside and can be accessed through the second floor of the hall. The balcony actually serves a very important purpose. Once you get the dog whistle on the small library on the east wing, you use it on the balcony to summon a not so good boy and get a scholar, which contains a coin. Speaking of it, once you examine the coin, it becomes the imitation of a key, which is going to be used in the aforementioned area, the Death Passage, so you can avoid the trap and get the armor key. The same death passage will lead into the big library once you get the helmet key after completing the guardhouse section. Now, this place isn't new at all, but I thought it would be a good idea to mention it since it has been completely redesigned. Just like the room after the one with the fireplace, which used to be just a large empty lesson room where we met Yawn for the second time, but now it has a sliding wall trap. Speaking of the big snake, here in the library is where we fight it now. Two more curiosities about this room. The double door that leads into the elevator area cannot be opened, even from the inside. I wonder why they did that. And two, there aren't many rooms that got removed in this remake, but one of them is a heliport lookout. This one I kinda get, because it didn't have much use in the original. It only had like an ink ribbon and then some piece of bullets. The final addition to the mansion is the door under the staircase on the main hall that leads to the altar, which then leads to the lab's entrance on the fountain, but we'll leave that one for later. For now, let's exit the mansion through another passage. The first thing you notice when you enter the garden shed from the roofed passage is that now there are two doors instead of one, and the crank to open the water gauge at the pool is not on the shelf where it used to be. Because of that, you will now head to the small door on the right after some stone steps, entering another whole new area. The door will lead you to a muddy path that serpents down through the woods. Here you'll find the first glimpse of the story edition I mentioned before. Once you pass the red weather vane, a transmission will come through the radio from either Barry or Wesker depending on who you're playing as.
One, respond.
Wesker?
Monster chains. Tree. None says. Wave. Woods outside the mansion.
Somebody respond! Over!
Barry?
Monster! Chains! Gun! Ineffective! Instant! Stay away! Forest outside mansion! Stay! Hey!
After that, you will find yourself in yet another graveyard. Who did Spencer got inspiration from when he pitched this mission to George Trevor, the Adams? Speaking of Trevor, the gate ahead opens into a forest pathway that takes you to the cabin. There, you will finally find the crank and something else. Lisa Trevor, the indestructible monster in chains, making her first appearance. But she will have to wait until the story section. Sorry, Lisa. After achieving the crank, you can finally drain the pool in the courtyard and make your way into the guardhouse. The first new thing you notice, the recreational room now has a mezzanine, and the bar is on the lower floor under it. It doesn't change much other than the decoration and the pool table being upstairs instead of in that corner. Same thing for the room where plans for the two wheels where they added those balconies. The basement. This is where you find the most notorious modification made to the guardhouse. The small shark tank became the much bigger aqua ring. Running from the sharks here is a lot harder since you have much less space to maneuver, and now you have to solve an actual puzzle to drain the water instead of just pressing a button. Oh, and make it quick, because now you have a countdown. Now that the water is down, all that's left to do is get the gallery key and fight the big fish. Oh, and now you have to exit through another route, because those blocks you push to make a bridge are not floating anymore. It's funny that this doesn't happen in the original, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say it was probably because of hardware and technical limitations. Let's move on to the next area, the underground cave system. Starting with the smaller changes, that save room after the fight with the Black Tiger and the elevator that leads to the fountain were completely removed. The save room makes sense because there was already a typewriter machine on the entrance before the boulder passage, and it never made sense to me why the developers never placed a chest there, forcing you to go all the way back to the guardhouse if you wanted to rearrange your inventory. As for the fountain elevator, let's leave it for now and aim our attention to the one that leads us even further down the caves, located at the generator room where once there was only a hole. This completely new section is where you will find Lisa for the second time, but there is no reason to fight her here unless you find yourself cornered. Just go to the storage room, push the crate into the small cargo transporter, go back to the elevator room, push the crate into the garbage compactor, get the broke flamethrower, and get the hell out of there. Once you've done that, you will find yourself in Lisa's room, where you will find a jewelry box with a picture and a stone ring inside. And after climbing a couple of ladders, what a surprise, you found yourself in the cabin again. Now that you have the stone ring, you can combine it with the metal object found in the study, forming another stone and metal object, just like the one you found in the crypt and used to unlock the door to the garden shed. With both objects, you can finally unlock the door under the staircase in the main hall, revealing the stone altar which contains Jessica's tomb, the mother of the indestructible Lisa, and wife of George Trevor, the architect who designed the Spencer Mansion. Anyway, if you're playing as Jill, you will find Barry here, and this is where you can lose him instead of in the caves like in the OG. Side note, Rebecca's possible death remained the same, and with Chris, you will only find Wesker here. After defeating the monster, you will finally reach the last area of the game, the laboratory. The area in this game that had the least amount of changes, in my opinion, outside of its aesthetics. It was actually kind of hard to find things to talk about it, so I had to be creative. Once you unlock the door near the stairs on the second floor, you will enter the visual data room. Now there is a small secondary room in there with video equipment where you can watch the tape from Kenneth's body cam.
What? Get away from me! No! Hey! No!
Rest in peace, Kenneth. The door to the surgeon's room cannot be unlocked, and now you have to get in there by going through the ventilation shaft in the morgue, just so you can hop on another shaft to reach a part of the morgue that was being blocked by a shelf. Turning the power on for the elevator became a little more complicated. Instead of just pressing a couple of buttons, now you have to grab the fuel capsule, take it to the machine in the room where you found the slide filter to be refilled, and then bring all the way back to the power maze where you found it. But there's a catch. You can either run or attack, or the capsule will explode. This adds some interesting tension, because now you have to make sure you got rid of any enemy that could be in your path before refilling the capsule. Speaking of power supply, if you're playing as Jill, if you manage to get Barry alive, he will knock out Wesker at the entrance of the main lab, resulting in him not getting killed by the tyrants. The thing is, after the fight, if you take time to go all the way to the generator room, you will find the former STARS captain lying dead on the ground, probably taken down by a chimera. The strange thing is that they removed that from the remake, but anyway, that's just an Easter egg. Finally, the story segment. As I said before, the changes here are not much in terms of quantity, and quite frankly, I could only think of 3. The first 2 aren't that big of a deal, they serve more as increments to the story, but the third one, oh boy. First, I want to start with Richard Aiken, member of STAR's Bravo team. No matter how fast you bring him the serum in the original game, he always dies right there in that corridor. In the remake, he can be saved with the serum, and he actually helps you fight Yawn with Jill, only to die later in a very gruesome way to save your life.
Jill!
And you get your shotgun. With Chris, he's taken to the room where you got the serum, and Rebecca will take care of him. Sadly though, he will sacrifice himself later on the aqua ring to save his friend, in a not so different way.
Richard! Chris! Chris, stop! No! Richard.
Speaking of friends, the signs of Barry's betrayal are a lot more apparent in the remake.
No, that wasn't part of our deal. But it's not necessary to destroy stars. What about my family? If I play my cards right.
Maybe his random appearances across the dimensions were supposed to hint at that, and the horrible translation and voice acting got in the way, but when Jill starts suspecting him in the caves, it's completely out of the blue. At least here, there's a scene where he actually betrays her by leaving her behind in the underground area where you run into Lisa for the second time. Speaking of her, it's finally time. Lisa was born around 1953, the only daughter to the architect behind the mansion, George Trevor, and his wife Jessica. After the mansion's completion, the family was invited to stay there as guests of the client Oswald E. Spencer. George, busy with work, stayed behind while Lisa and Jessica went ahead. The two were captured upon arrival by Spencer's guards and imprisoned in the underground caverns below the estate. Both were injected with strains of the experimental progenitor virus. Jessica's body rejected the virus, causing her to rapidly decline both physically and mentally, which eventually led to her demise. Lisa, however, reacted differently, with her body adapting to the virus, granting her immense strength and regeneration, though at the cost of her humanity. When George later arrived at the mansion, he was discarded as a candidate for the experiments, but still fell victim to Spencer's sadism. Becoming a prisoner on the property, he wandered for days trying to escape with no success. When trapped in a dark room, something caught his attention. Carefully, he lit up a match, only to find a gravestone with his name on, realizing that Spencer had planned this all along. Most likely George died of starvation, but we never found his body. So, who knows, maybe he could still be around, and could even make an appearance in the future Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Just kidding, but if I'm right, this is proof that I called it. Lisa remained imprisoned beneath the mansion for decades. Once Umbrella completed the Arclay laboratory nearby, she was transferred there in secret. From 1978 onward, under Dr. William Birkin's supervision, she became a primary subject for viral and parasitic experiments. In 1988, researchers implanted her with an NE-alpha-type parasite, used to control bioweapons by replacing brain function, but Lisa's body instead absorbed the parasite entirely. Over time, fragments of her consciousness resurfaced. Tormented and deranged, she began murdering female staff members, tearing off their faces in a delusional attempt to find her mother's visage. Following the deaths of 3 researchers in 1995, the executives had enough, and orders were given to the Umbrella Security Service to execute her. Owing to her regenerative abilities, the USS waited 3 days before declaring her deceased, and her body was taken away for disposal. Where Lisa's body was taken is uncertain. Her regenerative abilities allowed her to survive, and she lived fairly in the Arclay Mountains for the next few years. Following the T-virus outbreak in the Arklay laboratory in May 1998, Lisa's territory expanded or moved to encompass the state and land to the east, making a home out of a cabin nearby. After her final confrontation with STARS members, she jumped into a chasm after finally being able to recover her mother's corpse buried inside a stone coffin. Theoretically, she died when the mission exploded, but due to her incredible resilience, some fans speculate that she might still be alive. Recently, rumors reunited when monster sound effects resembling Lisa's were heard in the trailer for Requiem, featuring a creature also bound in shackles. However, the game's director Koshi Nakanishi quickly denied the connection, claiming the sound was reused by mistake, but who knows. Anyway folks, that's all I got for this video. Did I forget anything? I know I left out a lot of details about Lisa Trevor, but the idea for this video was to focus more on the differences between both games, rather than specific details like that. I'm planning on making another video in the future that will include her and I will be able to dig deeper there. Also, if you want to see me making more videos like this, like for the other remakes or remakes of other games like Silent Hill or Dead Space, please make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications. See ya!